There's a version of you that knows exactly what to do. It knows the deadline. It knows the stakes. It knows that what's sitting on that desk matters. And yet, you don't open the book. You don't start the draft. Instead, you pick up your phone. You find yourself somewhere else entirely. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet voice asks the same question it always does. Why do I keep doing this to myself? That question matters more than you know. Because the answer isn't laziness. It isn't weakness. It's something far more interesting and far more human. You've been here before. The night before something important. A test, a presentation, a conversation you've been putting off for weeks. The world around you slows. Your chest tightens. And instead of leaning in, you retreat. You tell yourself it's just 5 minutes, just a small break, just a moment to breathe. But the break becomes an hour. The hour becomes the night. And by morning, you're left with the evidence of your own interference. This is self-sabotage. Not the dramatic kind you see in movies, not a single catastrophic choice, but the quiet, persistent habit of standing in your own way. It shows up as procrastination, as perfectionism that never lets anything be finished, as the habit of making yourself smaller right before something important. Studies suggest that up to 95% of university students struggle with chronic procrastination, and between 62 and 82% of people will experience imposter syndrome, the deep, quiet fear that they are a fraud at some point in their lives. This is not a private struggle. It is one of the most universal features of being human. Before we go deeper, I want to offer you something. Not a solution, not yet, just a shift in perspective. What if the part of you that keeps pulling back isn't a flaw? What if it's actually a very old protection, a system built not to hurt you, but to keep you safe? Misapplied, yes, clumsy often, but never arbitrary. Self-sabotage isn't random. It has logic. It has architecture. It has a very specific purpose inside the brain. And once you understand that purpose, you stop fighting yourself and you start working with what's already there. Here's the first thing to understand about your brain. It is not primarily a happiness machine. It is a prediction machine. Every moment of every day, your brain is building a model of the world, estimating what will happen next, comparing that estimate to what actually happens, and reacting to any gap between the two. Psychologists call this a prediction error. To make it easy to picture, imagine a flat horizontal line. That line is your internal baseline, your brain's working assumption of how competent, how safe, how worthy you are. Now here's where it gets important. Your brain's deepest fear isn't failure, it's uncertainty. Specifically, the terror of discovering that its baseline is wrong. When the outside world drifts too far from that internal line, either above it or below it, the brain reads the gap as danger, and it reacts. For some of us, the baseline is set high. The story the brain tells is, I am competent, I am capable, I should be able to handle this. But the external world is messy. Exams give grades you didn't expect. Presentations don't go as planned. Feedback arrives before you're ready for it. And if any of that data threatens to prove the baseline wrong, the brain refuses to let the data be collected. This is called behavioral self-handicapping. You stay up too late before the big test. You leave the report until the last possible hour. You arrive underprepared, on purpose almost, though not consciously. Because here's the elegant, terrible logic. If you fail, there's a reason. You were tired. If you succeed, you're a genius. You did it without even trying.
Either way, the baseline is protected. The brain never has to find out if it was wrong. For others, the baseline is set low. The internal story reads, "I am not enough. I am a fraud. I don't deserve what I have." But then something happens. You get the promotion. Someone tells you your work is extraordinary. A door you didn't expect opens wide in front of you, and the outside world suddenly disagrees with your internal story. Success becomes the threat. Psychologists call this claimed self-handicapping. You start telling people you're overwhelmed before you've even begun. You lower expectations preemptively. You quietly make yourself less than you are, because a smaller version of you feels safer than a successful one. Not because you want to fail, but because your brain prefers the certainty of a familiar pain over the disorienting terror of an unfamiliar success. When that gap opens on the graph, a structure deep in your brain, the amygdala, reads the uncertainty as a threat. It doesn't matter that the threat is abstract. To the amygdala, identity danger and physical danger feel the same. It hijacks your rational thinking. It floods your body with the chemistry of alarm. And at the same time, the brain's internal brake system, a region called the right inferior frontal gyrus, is supposed to slow you down, stop you from doing something impulsive. But for many of us, that brake pedal is covered in a thick layer of resistance. It requires far more force to work. So you end up in this impossible state. Panic in the driver's seat, brakes too soft to stop the car, hurtling towards a cliff you could see coming from miles away. That's not a character flaw. That's a nervous system doing what nervous systems do. The people who've moved through this didn't fight their fear out of existence. They learned to close the gap. Not with willpower, not with discipline as a blunt weapon, but with 3 specific practices that work with the brain rather than against it. When the wave of anxiety hits, before you pick up your phone, before you retreat, open a notebook. Write down exactly what you're feeling. Not analyzed, not solved, just named. I feel a tightness in my chest. I have the thought that I will fail. This practice is called cognitive diffusion in acceptance and commitment therapy. When a feeling stays inside your head, you are the feeling. You have no distance from it. But the moment you write it down, you step outside of it. You become the observer, not the emotion. That tiny distance is enough to let the rational mind return to the wheel. Once you're thinking clearly again, you still face a mechanical problem. Willpower alone won't hold. The brake pedal is still soft. So instead of using force, use strategy. For perfectionists, try what's called the bad draft protocol. Right at the top of your page, my only goal for the next 20 minutes is to produce the worst, most embarrassing work I possibly can. By making bad the goal, you remove the fear of failure. The amygdala goes quiet because you can't fail at producing garbage. And almost always, what you create isn't garbage after all. But by then, you already have momentum. For procrastinators, use the WHOOP method. Wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. Write your wish. Write the best possible outcome, then, and this is the step most people skip, write the obstacle. Honestly, the obstacle is that when I get home, I open my phone and I don't put it down. Then build an if-then plan. If I walk through the door, then the phone goes in a drawer. You're not relying on willpower in the moment. You're preloading the decision, writing the code in advance, so the brain just runs it when the time comes. For the urges themselves, practice urge surfing. When that physical heat rises in your body, the one that says escape, run, check the notification, don't fight it. Track it. Write down, the urge is an 8 out of 10. I feel it as heat behind my eyes. Wait 2 minutes, check again. Now it's a 6. These physical impulses are waves. They always peak, They always fall. Every time you ride one without acting on it, you're doing a single quiet rep in the gym for your brain, strengthening that brake pedal one wave at a time. The first two steps help in the moment, but lasting change requires something deeper. It requires adjusting the baseline itself. And the only way to adjust it is to give the brain accurate, real-world data. Run behavioral experiments. Write down a hypothesis. If I show my work before it's finished, people will think I'm incompetent. Then test it. Share something unpolished with someone you trust. Don't explain it, don't apologize for it, just send it. Watch what happens. Usually, you'll find that the outcome is nowhere near as catastrophic as the prediction. Your brain is updating your model. The gap